In this video, we are going to be talking very quickly about how you can do fuzz testing with Foundry. Foundry is a framework that is used to write tests for Solidity. It provides tools such as Forge to write your tests and, write sort of unit tests as well as fuzz testing. So let's go right into a demo. In the lesson, you would have seen that there is a simple example test that has been taken from the Foundry documentation. So from the Foundry book that is also linked in your lesson, you can learn more about how to write unit tests and, what is the convention, etc. So I just want to quickly run through the convention that you can set up a test for yourself. You can set up the environment in which you want to test. So for example, in this piece of code, we are going to test whether the number is 42 or not, right? So the success test in this case is that you check for the equality assert, and the failure that is that it cannot be subtracted by, 43, right? So this is just an example. What we are interested in actually the fuzz testing, right? So you can also write a fuzz testing in your contract by using the same convention, that is having a keyword test and then whatever is the operation that you want to test and fuzzing, right? This is a general convention with which you can name your function. Now this has to take an amount as the input. Okay, before that, let me talk about what this fuzz testing is for. So you can find an ERC20 testing article in this link, that would be this link, which says writing ERC20 tests using Foundry. So basically, you're writing the test for ERC20 contract. And the testing that is happening here is for transferring of those ERC20 tokens. I'm not going to go through this entire article. I've linked it in the tutorial and you can read it there. So the transfer fuzzing test would require us to test whether one person is able to transfer some amount of this ERC20 to another account, right? So in this, we are going to fuzz on the amount. That is, we are going to send random inputs as amounts to this particular function so that this, Foundry or Forge does the testing for us and lets us know if there might be an issue. So as the piece of code suggests here, we are going to add, I have written the other ERC20 unit tests as a part of the code already. And I'm not going to go through it. It's kind of pretty straightforward. So I'm going to add the fuzz testing in another as a function in one of the failure paths. Could be success or failure, it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to sort of, use this function that is, okay. So this can be added in success path. So we have the function, it's the amount correctly, right? This is in the success path. And we are just going to first test this. That is, try to give different types of inputs to this amount so that we get to know if there is an issue or not, right? So I'm going to save this. 20, I'm going to forge a test. So I'm going to go up to 3 levels of variables. So you can also decide to, fuzz test. You can write your own fuzz test. All you need to do is just take input that particular needs. Automatically, Foundry will create the fuzz test for this input by creating multiple scenarios. So you can see that 4 tests have passed. So the fuzz test has also passed. You can see that test transfer fuzz, it did 256 runs. That means 256 times it generated, different types of inputs. And all of those inputs passed. So this fuzz test said that, okay, like this function is good to go. You can write your own fuzz test by, taking the same sort of example. And this is much, much easier to write in Foundry because Foundry automatically is doing the fuzzing for you, right? You can customize these number of runs to an extent using certain parameters, but there is, of course, going to be a hard cap given how much Foundry can do. This is just an example of how you can write fuzz tests in Foundry using Forge or ERC20. I suggest you to try out different contracts and try if you can, run the fuzz test for them. And also maybe you can add some required conditions or some sort of conditions within your to make sure to see how the fuzz test might even fail, right? What kind of failures might the fuzz test give you? So this is a short and quick example of how Forge and Foundry support fuzz testing.